Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
What is up, guys? Star Wars Only here, and I'm back with another controversial video, which really isn't as controversial as my other videos are. Surprisingly, a lot of my videos get hate when no one even watches them. But anyways, let's get right to the topic, and that is, are the originals overrated? The original Star Wars films, the ones that came out in 1977, 1980, 1983, episodes 4, 5, and 6, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Are they overrated? And this is a question that's kind of been coming around a lot lately as time goes on. You know, these movies, as they get older, the following for them, I would say, almost dwindles. Like, it dies out because what happens is the people who watched them when they grew up, what happens? I mean, naturally people die. I mean, that's just how the world works, and people grow old and they pass on from it. And so the fan base that the originals had, I feel like it's still strong. I feel like it's a lot stronger than the prequel fan base, but I feel like it's also dying out. And I've stated many times almost the reason this is happening is that because people that saw the prequels, like me, I was born in '99, literally a day before The Phantom Menace came out. So I literally grew up with the prequels. But as I got older, my love for movies, because I love movies, I love books, I love stories and everything, my love for movies grew, and I realized in my perception, this is completely my opinion, you can have your own different opinion on this, I realized as I grew up the prequels weren't good, because I even remember watching them as a kid and skipping through Attack of the Clones, a lot of the scenes just to get to the action because I hated the love scenes, I hated the politics, all that stuff. So as I grew older, my love for the originals grew and my love for the prequels completely died out. And so the problem now is a lot of people are reversing it. The love for the prequels have gone up, where it feels, and I don't think it's really true, is that the love for the originals are dying as well. And I feel like the reason this is happening is because A, people who love the originals either grew up with it or simply aren't big Star Wars fans like we are. You know, people who are fans of the prequels are normally the people who are like, well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I watch all the movies like once a month, I read the books, I read the comments and everything, and I'm not saying that, you know, prequel fans are better Star Wars fan than original fans. I mean, anyone that's a Star Wars fan is equal in my opinion. There's no bigger Star Wars fan than anyone else because we all love it for a very certain reason. But I feel like people who are prequel fans are more up to the challenge of defending the prequels and making it seem like the originals are overrated. And the reason this is happening, as I've said, is that these people grew up with the prequels. And no matter what you say, you are going to be biased to the things you grew up with. I grew up with movies that were really bad, and I will defend them to my dying day, and that's just how it is. And that's how most people are. If you're growing up with something, you're going to adapt to that. You're going to be so used to it that anything that challenges your point of view is going to be completely obsolete. It's the same thing, you know, with politics. If you, for 20 years, you were told that Republican is the way to go, your first 20 years of life, when you're 21 and someone tells you, no, you're wrong, they're going to be like, oh, how dare you say that about me? And, you know, for 20 years, your favorite book was Lord of the Rings, and when you grow up and someone's like, actually, you know, The Great Gatsby is better, they're going to be like, no, how dare you say that? Lord of the Rings is better. That's just honestly human nature. And so what's happening now is that as the prequel fans get older, they're more active, they're more into the community, and they're more defending the prequels and showing why they loved it. And honestly, the main reason they love it is because they did grow up with it, and they're looking at the originals and they're going, well, I didn't grow up with that, therefore I'm not overly fond of it. And that's completely fine, because nowadays you have people, even younger kids, I'm pretty confident most younger kids right now, I'm talking ages 3 to 10, would probably be more fond of the prequels than they would the originals. And the reason being is kids are not as impressed by older movies anymore. You know, you show a kid a movie like Citizen Kane's or Schindler's List, they're going to be bored out of their mind. But you show an adult that movie, someone in their 20s, someone in the 30s, someone who's actually known movies, they're going to be more interested in this movie. And the same with Forrest Gump. I didn't like Forrest Gump till I was 16 years old, and I was a history buff because I loved history. And when I watched Forrest Gump for the first time, I was like, this movie's fucking amazing. And so with kids, they're not going to enjoy the originals. And the reason being is because it's not as action-packed as movies nowadays are. They do have a lot of action, and it's got some good humor in it, but it doesn't have these special effects that the prequels have. And granted, the special effects in the prequels aren't all that great. There's some scenes where it's like, oh my god, that looks horrible. But overall, it's a really good movie with special effects, or it's a really good movie for special effects. I'm gonna, had to correct myself, sorry. So what is happening is these kids see this and they're like, wow, I really like this. I like the way Yoda flips. I like the way they move and everything. And that's why these kids are enjoying movies like Rogue One and The Force Awakens, is because it's newer and it's something they're growing up with. So therefore, they're going to see something like the originals and they're going to be like, well, this is boring. Obi-Wan's not doing flips. Darth Vader's just standing still when they're fighting. This is really boring. And they're absolutely right. You look at the originals versus the prequels and lightsaber battles, and you automatically notice a difference in how the originals have less of an art to them and they're just kind of hidden swords, whereas in the prequels they're jumping around, they're doing a lot of this kendo shit, and it looks amazing. So I feel like the originals aren't necessarily dying out, they're just not getting defended as much as they need to be, or even would be, considering the fact that people who are fond of the originals don't feel the need to defend it because the majority of the world is an original fanboy. Whether you like it or not, it's just true. Most people like the originals more than the prequels. Reason being is because a lot of people got into the originals. The people who are alive now got into it because of the originals. And I feel like as these prequel fans get older and as the kids watching, you know, The Force Awakens and Rogue One, in 10 to 20 years, they're going to realize the originals are better, or they're going to form their own opinion, and they might even go, you know, the new sequel that the series that I grew up with, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi, they're going to say the series I grew up with isn't as good as the prequels, and the prequels aren't as good as the originals. I feel like that might happen, but you never know. It's same with, you know, movies like Pulp Fiction. I've said this before, you know, that came out in the 1990s. That movie is good, but nowadays, if a kid watches it, or even when I watched it, I wasn't as impressed as I would have been back then, because, you know, I have a guy named Christopher Nolan who does a lot of time jumps like they did in Pulp Fiction. So I appreciate the movie, but I'm not as intrigued by it because I was born in a different time period, so I was kind of immune to that impression. I was kind of immune to the I guess glorifying aspects of it because I've adapted to it. I'm used to movies being different and time jumping like that than I would have been in Pulp Fiction. And that's honestly the simplest way I can explain it, is that people now, there's so many movies that are action-packed, like all these Marvel movies and all these superhero movies that are action-packed. When you get to a movie like Star Wars and the originals and it's not as action-packed, it's a little bit of a letdown when you're younger. But that's just completely my opinion. So I'm gonna leave it there. Comment your opinion. Do you think the originals are dying out, and do you think they are overrated, like some people are beginning to believe? Comment your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only, trying to get back as much as I can, but thank you all for your support. I will see you all next time. May the Force be with you, always.